Welcome to Relationship Workout for Men, Season 25, Moving Beyond Transactional Dating, Episode 2, Choosing a High-Value Partner. I'm here today with Anna Jackson, a psychotherapist based in the UK, specializing in everything mental health related. And in this episode, we're going to discuss redefining what partner value looks like beyond appearance and wealth. So welcome, Anna, and what do you think about this topic?
I think this topic is great. I can dive straight in if you want me to.
Yes, please.
So I think that whenever you date anyone, it's really easy to look back and go, oh, that was a red flag. That was a red flag. But the truth is, I think we all have red flags, and it just depends whether or not that person is consciously aware that they could be deemed red flags and whether they're willing to change and work on things that could be deemed red flags. So, someone who's very avoidant, if you like, and flaky, and they really want to be with the person that they're dating, but their tendencies to run away are just really strong. Now that's a red flag. If they're willing to accept that they've got that red flag and to work on that, is a really good book called Attach. So to work on their attachment style, that's someone who's actually willing to grow and change. And that's a huge green flag, because there's things in all of us that none of us are fixed or perfect or whatever. So there's things in all of us that can be bettered. So, that's a really good example. Whereas if someone has that same attachment style of being very avoidant and just leaves the other person hanging constantly, or they get too close and they run away, and they're not willing to, but they might be willing to accept that they are like that, but they're not willing to change, then that's a red flag. That's an actual red flag, and time to leave for the other person who's trying to date them. That's not a good sign.
My wife brings up that a man who wants to be a better partner is actually very attractive, because what happens is so as I said, we've been together 18 years, and clearly the person I was 18 years ago, hopefully I'm a better version of that person today, right? And so she must have seen something that I wanted to try to better myself in that, and she goes, that's guys, like you said in the previous episode, well, our looks will fade. So it's really that companionship, and that companionship is going to be bettered, as you said, based on if you actually want to be a better partner. So you start working through those things, those red flags or those traumas or whatever you have that you enter in. I like to say that the compatibility is basic, right? If you want to live in the UK and I want to live in the US, that's going to be a problem, right? There's some basic compatibility things, but outside of that, the relationship itself, how you show up in the relationship, is really going to dictate the quality of that relationship long term. And that has to have, for men especially, are you willing to be a better partner? Are you willing to explore where you're kind of failing on those things? Like when you talk to men that are dating, how do you tell them about, well, is it important to be a better partner? Is it important to improve your relationship skills? Are those important things, like how you talk to men? What do you think about that?
Yeah, definitely. I think if it's it's like that old saying, happy wife, happy life. And if they're not willing to look at their relationship skills and improve their relationship, they're not going to have a happy partner. And it works the other way as well. So it's it also doesn't have to be deemed a chore. You can really do things that are in line with the way in which you want to move forward in your relationship. It can also be fun things. For example, you could have conversation cards, or a fun game where you ask each other questions about how they feel the relationship is going, and there can be a fun spin on it. Or it can be okay, assign 20 minutes a day, after dinner, to just chat about, or over dinner to just chat about anything that you feel could be better in the relationship, or anything that's been bothering you. So it just then is contained rather than someone potentially bottling it up and it coming out at a time when you don't really want it to. And I think men have it quite difficult sometimes, because I think they're expected to almost be all of these things, like be the main provider, right? And also like be really open and have their heart open and be vulnerable, but don't be too feminine, you know? So it's like, be vulnerable, but don't be too feminine. Like, be a provider, but still have time for me. Like, so there's lots of like almost what some people could see as conflicting asks of them. So yeah, I think they have it tough. Men and women have it tough in different ways, but I definitely, that one for men is coming in much more in the current like day and age.
I like this. Someone once said the 1% rule. It's like you don't have to try to be a better partner. You don't have to do that 100% full time. That's all you're doing. But I think for us men, a lot of times we spend so much time getting educated. Maybe we go to church. Maybe we focus on our golf game, and maybe just spend a little bit a day. Like maybe it's 10 minutes or 5 minutes or 30 minutes just on the relationship part of it, right? If you just make that a little bit of a priority for your partner, then she can feel, it gives you that avenue, that connection part. Because otherwise, year after year after year can go by and you get more and more disconnected. It's like just making that priority. Like what would you say to a couple that they're dating and she's a little worried that he doesn't seem to make the relationship a priority? And she sees that maybe as a red flag. What would you say to him, in terms of that conversation?
Well, you're right about the 1% rule. It's like James Clear, right? Atomic Habits. It's like 1%, 1% better. So what I would say to her would be, ask him if he believes he makes the relationship a priority, and then ask him how he believes he shows that he makes the relationship a priority, because he could be, it's like love languages, he could be doing something or multiple things that he feels show her that he is making the relationship priority. Like, I don't know, taking the bins out every Thursday, or organizing family holidays for them, paying the school fees. That could be his channel. And then if she might not be open to receiving it in that way, because her love language could be, so that could be like an acts of service love language. Her love language could be gifts, and he's not buying her any gifts. So she therefore doesn't believe that he's making the relationship a priority, or, quality time. So then it's like getting on board with what both of your love languages are. And there's just a really simple quiz that you can do online. Just Google love language quiz, comes up. Takes like 10 to 20 minutes. So that would be my first question.
Yeah, it's like for myself, paying certain bills, right? I mean, we feel like we're making the relationship a priority because we're working, and we're, that's what we're doing. That's what we're supposed to do. That's help trying to keep the relationship safe or the family safe and these things, but they don't necessarily translate into, it's almost like table stakes. Like, okay, fine, you're doing that and that's great, but you have to go beyond that to the specifics about, what do I need? Like you mentioned happy wife, happy life. And I'm a total proponent of that. It's like just being able to sit there and ask your partner, what does she need right now, and listen. Just doing that for 5-10 minutes can go a long way in making that connection. And I think in the episode title, Choosing a High Value Partner, isn't that kind of what a high value partner is? Someone who's willing to make the relationship at least a little bit of a priority? Because over years of being together, that 5 minutes or 10 minutes may go beyond and make more and more connection. Isn't that kind of what we're in? If you want a long-term relationship, that connection, that deeper kind of thing. So how is that conversation going to happen with that guy and that gal, or those two people, where he thinks he's making the relationship a priority, but he's not, or in her mind he's not? Like, how do you talk to him? How do you talk to her about that change, that 1%? Can you do that can you hear her needs a little bit more? Like, how does that conversation happen?
Yeah, so I'm assuming that he's not going to want, it's not in his interest to have her upset. So when they do love language test, if hers does come back, say quality time, again, it's that 1% thing. Like, can he spend some more quality time with her? And can she also open her like channel to, this is his way of showing me love with the acts of service. So there's a meeting in the middle, and then vice versa. So it's just about spending a tiny bit more time, one thing a day, one thing a week even, on doing something that your partner deems to be resulting in feeling more like you're doing more for the relationship and therefore prioritizing the relationship. Because no one wants to be in a romantic relationship where they don't feel like the other person's prioritizing them, because it's like what's the point?
Right.
You know, you don't want to feel like your other half is constantly prioritizing friends or family over you, because your significant other, that's why it's called significant other. They should be significant. Otherwise they're your insignificant other. Like, and you know, it's not a relationship most of us would want.
So that's actually, that really, I've never heard it that way, but yeah, it's our significant others. So make the person significant in your life, and just a little bit at a time. It doesn't have to be a huge thing. And like you said, maybe just start with where the love languages are. That's a really good place to start, and just make sure. I learned not too long ago, about 2-3 years ago, I make my wife a cup of coffee every morning, and it takes just a minute or two, but I tell men, if you just do one thing for her every day, one nice thing every day, just make that your standard thing. It's at least, if nothing else happens that day, at least you did that one thing. Because if you're not too careful, a week can go by, 2 weeks can go by, 3 weeks, and you haven't treated her like your significant other because you've been prioritized. Your boss it becomes your significant other, right?
And significant other, yeah. It's interesting because a lot of the time, the person who gets the least of us or the least of our good side is our significant other, whereas actually that's the most important relationship in our lives. So it's kind of counterintuitive that they often get like the scraps. So after you've finished at work, after you finish with the kids, after you finish with your family, your parents, they then often get like the sort of, and that every now and again is fine. But when it's again a habit, over time that relationship will combust. Yeah,
and they get you at the end of the day when you're exhausted. So it's not your better self, right? I mean, you've had a rough day and all you want to do is tune out. The last thing you want to do is something that's heavy.
Yeah.
So make your significant other significant. All right, we're gonna wrap up this episode. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna mirror that every now and again is fine, but when it's that consistent, it's not good.
Right. Okay, we're gonna wrap up this episode. In the next episode, episode 3, we're gonna talk about we attract what we are. Thank you so much, Anna, and this is fascinating. Thank you. We'll see you on the next episode.